Good evening, everyone. Everyone, please rise. We'll be led in prayer by Alderwoman Berto.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all of our decisions are for the common good, and for your inspiration, we instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and the wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all of our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trusted place in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Alderwoman Singh, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to accept the minutes from August 1st and 15, 2022. Is there such a motion, please? Alderwoman Gould, seconded by Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Proclamation, Mohegan Striders Running Club.
This evening, we have two proclamations to read into the public record. The first one is acknowledging the 50th anniversary of the Mohegan Striders, a club that has existed half a century, that participates in many charitable activities, along with good public health encouragement and so forth. So I'd like to read that into the record, please. I don't see Phil. Is Phil, please come down. I'm going to move over to the other mic. Hey, Phil. This is an official proclamation from the city of Norwich. Whereas Mohegan Striders Running Club started on April 9th, 1972. The club started as a long-distance club for runners, joggers, and race walkers. Dues were $1 with 30 members, and by the end of the year closed out with 83 members. Whereas on Sunday mornings in early 1970s, runners gathered at the home of John Martin, and they followed a route that gave them hill training and some distance. Along the way, they stopped at the Longhouse at the Tanaquidgeon Indian Museum to visit Chief Harold Tanaquidgeon, who became a very good friend to the group. And whereas on July 14, 1974, the first induction held was for John DeGange, retired sports writer. The second induction honored member of the club was Chief Harold Tanaquidgeon, Chief of the Mohegan Nation. And whereas Mohegan Striders have applied for and received an official Connecticut AAU charter, which recognizes it as a member club, the Striders are able to hold AAU-sanctioned events related to long or medium-distance road races and race walking events. And whereas Mohegan Striders now have over 300 members and can proudly claim that men's open racing team is leading the Connecticut USA TF competition. And whereas despite Mohegan Striders' successes in the various USA TF age groups, they pride themselves on having the most social, the most fun club in the state, for speed is not the backbone of this club, camaraderie is. And whereas there is a quote at the end of the article by George Main on October 18, 1975, no matter where you go, you can see a Mohegan Strider. Never look back, we're always there. Now therefore, I, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom, and Norwich City Council President Pro Tem Joseph A. DeLucia, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the City of Norwich, to hereby congratulate Mohegan Striders Running Club on their impressive record in their 50 years of running, jogging, or race walking and camaraderie, dated the 6th day of September 2022. Congratulations to you. This is Phil. He's the president currently. Al Phillips, excuse me.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this proclamation. It means so much to the history of the club. I'm president. I have been the president for a few years. And yes, the community of Norwich has embraced us for so many years, and we have been throughout southeastern Connecticut for many years. And we just ran a USATF race yesterday in New Haven, and once again, our kids did very well. And we continue and hope that we'll continue for 50 years embracing the Norwich community in southeastern Connecticut. With me today is the first president and one of the but the signers, original members of the Mohegan Striders. He's a legend in the running community and a legend in the Norwich community, Tim Smith.
Only to impress that President Phillips and I are just bookends of a truly thriving organization. The stewardship throughout, wow, 5 decades, it is hard to believe, but very creative, very energetic group, always. We've had our ups and downs, and yet we still thrive, and hopefully we'll go forward for many, many decades as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. This next proclamation is for Mr. John Richard Fells. This is Roberta. Please come up and accept it for him. With me is Mrs. Roberta Vincent, a New London resident, but a very good friend to the Norwich community. In fact, we have her all the time here. This is, again, a proclamation. Whereas on Labor Day in 1922, John Richard Fells was born, and today, this past September 4th, he reached the centenarian milestone, his 100th birthday. And whereas John Richard Fells attended Hobart Avenue School and graduated from St. Mary's School as valedictorian and class president in 1936, he attended NFA, where he taught buglers from his second year to his senior year, working his way up to first trumpet, graduating in 1940. Whereas John Richard Fells married his wife, Mariana, over 60 years ago, meeting her in Italy, and they have 3 children, Anthony, Maria, and Caddy, and 7 grandchildren, Colleen, Jonathan, Michaela, Benjamin, Shelby, Julia, and Matthew. Whereas John Richard Fells served his country honorably and continues to honor, having enlisted in August of 1942 in the Army and was discharged on January 20th, 1946. He then joined the Merchant Marine Service, and in March 1952 he enlisted in the Air Force, received orders to Italy, where he attended the last Requiem Mass for Pope St. Peter's. Whereas John Richard Fells is a member of the Avino Reunion Association for people that were stationed in Avino, Italy, and they hold a reunion yearly, with every 3 years being in Avino, Italy, a group of 70 to 80 people. Whereas John Richard Fells in 1987 and 1998 was honored as Veteran of the Year, and in 1985, during the 100th anniversary of the White Cross Council 13 Knights of Columbus, he was named Knight of the Year, and in 2004, he was honored to play taps at Veterans Week in San Antonio, Texas. He stopped bugling at the age of 90. And I can tell you, for many veterans events in this community since I've been active, he was always there, playing taps for us. Now therefore, I, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom, and Norwich City Council Pro Tem Joseph DeLucia, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the City of Norwich, do hereby congratulate John Richard Fells on his impressive record and a life well lived, dated again on his birthday, the 4th of September. Thank you.
On behalf of John Richard Fells, I thank you for this wonderful honor. Thank you.
Yes, very briefly, but my wife and I had the good pleasure of celebrating Mass at St. Mary's Church in Greenville with John and his family this Saturday, September 3rd, the day before his birthday. But Father Robert Washabaugh, the celebrant of the Mass and the pastor, really hit the point for me, and it goes like this. In 1922, an angel came before our Lord and said to our Lord, "Lord, John Fells is coming." Our Lord looked at the angel and replied, "We have to build a new church." And in 1922, John Fells was born on September 4th, and on December 8th, St. Mary's Church held its first Mass at the present building on Central Avenue. So 3 months out, and there was the church again. And John is celebrating 100 years right along with that sacred building. So we're pleased that John has always been a part of this community. And to the council and the administrators, thank you so much for your stewardship. I was born on Church Street. I hope to die here.
Public hearing. An ordinance regarding additional fiscal year 2021-22 appropriations for the City Consolidation District.
Thank you, Betsy. At this time, I declare the public hearing open. And at this time, I would ask anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance to come forward. The microphone down on the floor. Please state your name and address for the public record. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Again, anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? A third attempt. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? If not, is there anyone here in opposition to the ordinance at this time? Is there anyone in opposition at this time? Is there anyone in opposition at this time? Seeing none, I then declare this hearing closed. Thank you.
Second reading and action. An ordinance regarding additional fiscal year 2021-2022 appropriations for the City Consolidation District.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask for a motion to bring this to the floor. Is there such a motion? Alderwoman Gould. Second, Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion at this time? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted 7-0.
Petitions and communication. Record of vote on the recommendation to the City Council regarding the City Council's authorization to the City Manager to execute any and all project authorization letters regarding the Route 82 upgrades and improvements.
At this time, I'd ask for a motion to bring this to the floor. Alderman Singh, is there a second? Alderman Wilson, is there a discussion on the motion to receive? Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Alderman Berto,
Yes.
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
Alderman Gold,
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf,
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia,
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. The motion passes 7-0. The matter is received.
City Manager's report.
Oh, thank you. This is the city manager's report for September 6, 2022. Meetings attended were the Southeastern Council of Governments, Southeastern Area Transit, NPU City Coordination Meeting, NCDC Board of Directors, a meeting with fire chiefs. The Connecticut Port Authority has approved an additional grant of $289,490 for the decaying pilings at Brown Park. The approximately $1 million project with 20% city share will replace the public docks and metal ramps in addition to the pilings. Their approval will be forwarded to the State Bond Commission for consideration in October. The Connecticut Port Authority has approved a $45,000 no-match grant for design improvements along the Heritage Walkway to the bank of the Yantic River. Youth and Family Services partnerships with local schools continues to expand. They attended freshman orientation at NFA, talking with over 250 families about their programs and services, along with 6 other community events in the past month, providing information on substance use prevention, mental health, and as well as providing free backpacks and school supplies to hundreds of Norwich families. They have launched a partnership with Otis Library recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month, and will have a table at the library with information and activities for adults and youth on mental health and suicide prevention, culminating with the training for community members on how to recognize the signs of suicide and how to support others in obtaining the help they need to prevent suicide. My assistant, Jackie Barbarossa, who is also the city's municipal liaison for Neighborhood Assistance Program, has notified the applicants of the approvals. Corporations can submit pledges to the Department of Revenue Services electronically between September 15th and October 3rd. Thank you to Norwich Street Art Collective for the 2 most recent murals at 59 Broadway and 147 Franklin Street. The murals, which are privately funded, continue to brighten the downtown. The city looks forward to the next work of art. Public Works Fall Brush Pickup will take place the weeks of September 19th and 26th. Information has been posted on the city's Facebook page and Public Works website at norwich.org. The Norwich Rotary will hold its annual Cultural Diversity Celebration on Monday, September 19th from 5 to 8 p.m. at Brown Park. There will be music, food tastings, entertainment, and activities. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Other questions at this time? The city manager. Alderman Singh.
Thank you. Just a comment that I did attended one of the barbecue at Mahan School, and Youth and Family Services were there. So I was very glad, when they set up a table and talk to families and just listen to people and how city can help them. There is so much stuff we have, but nobody really knows about it. So it is very important that more participation happens. Other thing is, of course, I did like all the murals that happened recently in downtown. Looks great, looks vibrant, a lot of colors, which looks nice. And the third thing, the Rotary celebration for cultural diversity, I think it is a very good event, and they do intend to have different cultural dances there, and even Sikh martial art display as well, like they did a few years back. And they have a lot of surprises, so everybody should come and visit that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion at this time? Seeing none. Continue then, please.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
At this time, I declare citizen comment on resolutions to be open. This is the time, those of you who signed up to speak, I'll be reading from the list in order. If you did not have a chance to sign up, we will continue to ask if someone else wants to join in the conversation. Thank you. The first person to sign up is Greg Schlau. Excuse me, Greg, can you, with the indulgence of the council, our honored guest, John Richard Fells, did arrive. He's sitting here in the front. I certainly want to acknowledge him, and I hope you will as well, and thank him for his many years of service as a veteran here, representing the United States, but also our community as a veteran who came home and continued to serve.
Señora, guarda de One more. No, no, sta bene. No, no. Un bel sorriso. Nice smile. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very happy you did that, Mr. Mayor, because I would have felt really awful speaking before you recognized the gentleman. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Greg Schlau of 91 Lambert Drive, this city. I'm here to speak about the Route 82 resolution you're looking to take care of. I didn't have a chance to attend any of the informational sessions, but I was listening to the gentleman from the state tonight, and I'm going to be honest with you, this is the disaster in the making. We're talking 4 lanes down to 2, turning a rotary into major areas. I mean, he showed a picture of the high traffic volume on Route 82 with 4 lanes. Now take that traffic volume and put it to 2 lanes. Tell me what's going to happen. You're going to have more crashes than you do now. Their statistics say that, but if you've driven on Route 82, statistics don't mean how these people drive on Route 82. It's been known as Crash Alley for a reason, and that's why. I think if you're going to do anything with it, make what you have now better. And the eminent domain policy that the gentleman spoke about, I understand that completely. However, you can go to court and you could actually lose your house. You could have to take whatever the state's going to offer you. What if you have sentimental value? What if you have a business that's passed down from generation to generation? It's just going to be taken away from you because, oh, we want to make the road different. It is absolutely ridiculous to change this around. And I'm sorry if I offend any of you, but the people on public safety, you ought to be voting against this. Because if you're really for public safety, you're talking about more accidents that you're going to get on that road now, then you're not here for public safety. You should resign from that committee immediately. I mean, Chief Montoya is here, I noticed, from the city, and then you have the East Great Plains Fire Department. They're the ones that are going to be impacted by this entire project. So you're going to be looking at fire truck usage, which means they're going to be replaced more. You're going to be looking at fuel surcharges for the fire trucks. Then you have the EMS system that comes into play. You have to pay for all their medical supplies they're going to be using. You have American Ambulance, which, okay, the city doesn't fund, but they're going to have an increase. They're going to want more money from the city. And what about the police department? You're going to have to hire on more officers because you're going to have more issues that are going on than what you see now. I think this is an idea that the city should just throw out the door, tell the state, thank you very much, we don't want it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tom Callanan.
Thank you. I'm hobbling because of the humidity and my bad knee. If you don't know, I was the first official state troubadour here in Connecticut. I live at 55 East Town Street. I've been a resident with my wife Ann for the past 15 years. And I haven't been able to get to the other meetings because I've been out performing. Amazing. So the performance schedule has prevented me from commenting prior to this evening. And so my comments are from a layman's perspective regarding the concept and practicality of this proposal from someone who's on the road all the time. For the past 45 years, following a stint in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam War, I served stateside at Camp Pendleton. And then teaching English and reading at East Hampton Junior High School, I've made the creative and performing arts my full-time profession. And for a good portion of my life, prior to leaving the classroom to complete my master's degree at Wesleyan University, I was on the road performing when and where I could, all over the Northeast. Then I spent over 20 years traveling from Maine to Florida and beyond. During this time, I encountered numerous rotaries, which is the American term for traffic control islands. Roundabouts are what they are called in Great Britain, a country we fought and defeated twice in our nation's formative years. But I digress. In my travels, I also became acquainted with other idiosyncrasies, such as New Jersey's jug handle exits, which prevent drivers from making left-hand turns, and the prohibition against pumping my own gasoline. I've been on the road or otherwise engaged up until now, but since tonight is a hearing on a topic I've had experience with and strong opinions on, I've checked out a number of websites to get more generally informed. One of the most impressive sites was the Federal Highways Administration's very polished and professional-looking one, touting the benefits of roundabouts. You can find it online. And there were several others that gave a more balanced analysis. However, from my own personal experience, with hundreds of thousands of miles on the road in my career, rotaries are dangerous. I have seen many, many accidents and or very close calls and heard from friends and colleagues about many others that they had experienced. And I understand this is hearsay evidence and it's not admissible in a court of law, but this is a public hearing and I know what I've seen. I can't grasp why the experts are so dead set on impeding forward progress, something which seems to be in our human DNA. We're now trying to get to Mars using the moon as a staging base. We root for all sorts of athletic contests in which the victors reached their goal by being the faster, the stronger, the wilier, or just plain luckier. But without their forward progress, they wouldn't have achieved their goal. In academics, politics, business, sporting events, everything, forward progress is essential. Attempting to control a human being's forward progress doesn't accept or even acknowledge who we are and how we're wired. When governments try to reprogram human beings from being, well, human beings, some cliches are triggered in my mind. Here are three: a fly in the ointment, a cog in the wheel, a monkey wrench in the works. All non-complimentary terms used to describe the general befuddlement and sluggishness caused by a lack of forward progress, which is a trait that has defined Americans, whether native or immigrant, legal or otherwise, from its inception to the present day. Considering forward progress a derogatory term goes against our innate human experience, and only through heavy-handed, browbeating, and demoralizing can our governors, with a small g, i.e. policymakers, do we succumb and relent that radical ideas like this can be put into practice. Throughout human history, humans have passed on the memories of freedom, interrupted and open traffic patterns will remain as part of our legend and lore, poetry, literature, the fine arts, and yes, even folk music. I can say that for sure. Onto the topic of
Excuse me, Tom.
nostalgia.
Could you please summarize? Okay.
Got a couple more sentences. So if this absurd notion comes to fruition, it is my humble opinion that West Main Street will become a ghost town. But looking at it from a half-full glass perspective, eventually, after becoming a blighted eyesore of neglect, our governmental experts would eventually be able to transition, a word popular in the current lexicon of government speak, being transformed into a lovely boulevard refashioned from the wasteland and devoid of the current chaos that apparently has some folks intent on a huge makeover under the guise of public safety, whether they live to see it or not. Please consider what you're doing. Norwich is a great town. Thank you.
Thank you. David Bishop.
So I can see what I'm doing. My main concern, David Bishop, 28 Cherry Hill Road, Norwich. My main concern was the proposed roundabout at New London Turnpike in West Main Street, because I live off New London Turnpike. And I go through that every day, and I see the traffic coming from the city down 2 lanes, bumper to bumper, 2 lanes, bumper to bumper, coming up from I-395. And I was just thinking, when all these cars get in that roundabout, and somebody on New London Turnpike wants to go across to the other side of New London Turnpike, are these 4 lanes of people going to let them get through to go there? If they stop to let somebody get in, is that going to back up traffic? And when I saw the picture of the proposal, it looked like there was still 2 lanes, 4 lanes each way, but somebody said it's going to be just down to 1 lane now each way. So that's going to back up traffic. I mean, where do you put all those cars? They're going to be all the way back to 395, excuse me, and then all the way back down to Dunham Street or maybe Asylum Street, 1 whole lane during rush hour coming into that circle, and you're going to try to get across, or you're going to try to merge into it if you want to go up the other way. I don't see it happening. And I know there have been a lot of accidents and everything. I think a lot of them, you folks know the numbers, but I think a lot of the problems are people coming out of businesses and trying to turn left across 2 lanes going up the other way. And I know this firsthand because a few years ago, I was coming up with my 88-year-old sister in the car from I-395 into the city and going right by Burger King. The other 2 lanes going west, the person on the outside lane stopped to let somebody come out of Burger King who wanted to cross and go towards the city. Well, this guy obviously wasn't looking at what cars were coming because he just hightailed it right out of Burger King, and a car in the inside lane smashed right into him. So he obviously wasn't looking up there. And at the same time, I was in the inside lane coming up towards the city, just by Burger King. If that other car hadn't crashed into that other car, he would have crashed into me, because he was going to go right across the 2 lanes and right into my lane and would have crashed. And I'm sure if that would have happened, my sister would have had a heart attack for sure if we didn't both get killed. So the problem is turning left. If you put a barricade down the road as it is now, I think that will stop a lot of accidents. If everybody, there are already places on Route 82 that have a right-only turn, coming out of the Liberty Bank place, up the other way. Chelsea Groton has to go down right. I think Walgreens also goes one way. So if everybody just went right and you had a barricade and then you had a turn lane at the light where somebody can go down, turn around like at Staples light, turn around and come back up, I think that would solve a lot of problems. So those are my recommendations. Just put the barricades in, forget about the roundabouts, and make everybody go right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. David McDowell.
Hello, my name is David McDowell. I own Sign Professionals at 303 West Main Street. I'm one of those small business owners both sides of the aisle claim to care so much about. My building may be one of those taken in this project. I want to start by saying the DOT has kept us informed on this project from day one, and I fully understand they take no pleasure in taking my building. However, in doing so, they will most likely put me out of business and our employees out of work. This is a business my best friend and I started almost 30 years ago in my basement. Our dream was always to own our own business and building. Some would say the American dream. Our goal was to build a successful business and own the building we worked out of, so one day we could sell the business and rent the building. This was our goal and our dream and our retirement plan. We have worked 15 to 17 hours a day for years and have worked diligently to accomplish our goal, and we have reached this goal with the help of many great businesses, organizations, and the people of Norwich. Now, some 30 years later, I am told we are worth fair market value. If we decide to move on, we will be starting from scratch all over again at 56 years old, and that's not an easy task, and of no fault of our own. We didn't make a mistake or a bad business decision. We didn't invest poorly in equipment or a building. Quite frankly, if this goes through, we are just getting the short stick in a game we didn't ask to play. I read Councilman DeLucia's comments in the Day article, and I quote, "There are 16 vacant properties between Asylum Street and the I-395 on-ramp, so there are plenty of opportunities for businesses being displaced to relocate." I would respond, sir, with this. The current cost of rent for the approximately 3,500 square feet we now have is between $6,000 and $8,000 a month along West Main Street. All those I have talked to want the rent plus triple net. And for those of you, because this was news to me, for those of you who don't know what triple net is, the landlord expects you to pay the $6,000 or $8,000 a month rent. Plus, he expects you to pay the taxes on that property, the maintenance on the interior of that property with the exception of possibly the heating system, and he wants you to pay for all the snow removal, the grass, your portion of that. Okay, I lost my spot. I know this is a reality because I spent the time doing it. I can pay someone $8,000 a month for a property I don't own, versus the $3,500 to $4,000 I pay now for a building I do own. Councilman DeLucia, I challenge you to find me 3,500 square feet I can own along West Main Street for $3,500 a month, all in, and you will be my hero, sir. And I will be forever grateful. As I said, the state will pay fair market value. However, they will not tell me what that is until you sign off on this project. I don't have a clue. What is that number? All my years of work, what's it worth? I don't want to leave my building, I don't want to leave Norwich, and I certainly don't want a business I have given my life to build to be out of business. All the nights and weekends I have worked, all the sacrifices my family and I have given to accomplish the goal of a great business that I love and is part of me. I am not sure how to put a price on that, but what I do know is the state puts no value on those things, and I am fairly certain that fair market value will not be enough. The businesses not taken by DOT on West Main Street will be affected for many years to come. I am of the opinion most small business will be eliminated and fail during this project along West Main Street. A West Main Street that will be avoided by consumers for the length of this project due to traffic issues are inevitable. For the 6 years this project will take, how many years after completion before customers and business return is anyone's guess. I don't envy any of you on this council. However, I want you to know, you and you alone have the power to dictate the outcome if you agree with what DOT is doing or to sign off on it. For those of you on the council that have a business, I know you feel my pain, and for those of you who have had a corporate job, I would like you to consider this. What if one day after 30 years of hard work, the state came into your house and said, we are eliminating your retirement plan, and by the way, your 401k is now wiped out. Zero. What would your reaction be? That is what I'm looking at. This is my reality. This is fair market value in their opinion. This is what your decision today is about. I ask that you don't sign this agreement, and I thank you for this time this evening.
Thank you, sir. John Rechnowitz, please.
Hey, John J. Rankowitz Jr., 23 Michelle Drive, Norwich, Connecticut. Here we go again with these ridiculous roundabouts in Norwich. The one in downtown Norwich area could use a merry-go-round in the center of it. As the mayor of Norwich and the city council, you're really doing injustice for the residents of Norwich by keeping them completely updated of what is happening. You need to send out an informational packet to the taxpayers, to all the taxpayers, including 1, explanation of the roundabouts, 2, loss of businesses, 3, tax increases, 4, actual costs and fees that the developers are getting and additional costs that could arise. Many individuals have no understanding what is happening or when these meetings are being held. I have completely lost interest for voting for a new mayor, city council members, board of education members, state officials, etc. All the issues happening in Norwich, and nobody cares about the concerns from the people. Oh, and for the developers, by the way, when they showed that video, they stated, they are looking over your video stating that 65-year-olds are the cause of car accidents. Why don't you look at the younger age underage bracket drivers? Interesting. You see those younger ones just speeding along, and here they're saying the 65-year-olds are causing all the accidents. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kevin Blacker.
My name's Kevin Blacker. I drove up from Norwich today. Read in the paper some estimates of the cost that the city would be assuming to take over maintenance. I really question those estimates, and I think that it would be wise for the city to ask the state to pay for a consultant of the council's choosing to do a formal investigation of what the costs, to upkeep, what the actual costs of getting into the details, the real nitty-gritty details of what all those costs will be, and also laying out for the council and the residents to understand what the impact on tax revenue of loss of, property and businesses will be. I would be cautious of anything that the state says. I'd really note that he said 30% design documents. That's what their costs are based on. Down at State Fair in New London, the number was $157 million at 30% design documents. It's now at $250 million. In Norwich, where I live, the bridge leading into town was supposed to be $5 million. It ended up, time and a half that. So I would say that the state, their word is not trustworthy. So I'll just say that. I think that it's important that there's some consideration of the waste of land and division of a city in a space when you have massive sprawling roundabouts or clover leafs. And I guess 2 more points I'd make would be, I think there should be some consideration of, or a look at who historically has been impacted by eminent domain and how those people recover financially and emotionally from that. The last thing I'll say is with the press here and looking around this room, there's a real lack of young people. I think that the council would be wise to make some jabs at the younger generation for not coming and participating. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Andrew Hoffman, please. Is Andrew Hoffman still with us? Joanne Philbrick?
Joanne Philbrick, Norwich Town. Tonight I will be speaking for myself. but I also will be speaking for Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. Thank you. I knew I'd get it right or wrong, so I wasn't going to take the chance. Marvin died. You won't read about it in the newspaper. You won't see any proclamations. You talk about mental health and substance use, but you have no frigging clue. You don't know, and you don't care. I speak from personal experience. I wear my heart on my sleeve. My heart is breaking for Marvin. So is there a problem, Mr. DeLucia?
Yes, I'm wondering what your comments have to do with the agenda items. That is.
Oh, you know what? You personally should know a lot more about what's going on. Do what you want to do, and the people in this room will either vote for you or they won't vote for you.
Thank you. Steve Bokoff.
Hello. As some of you know, my name's Steve Bokoff. I was born in Norwich. I live in Norwich. My accounting practice is located at 457 West Main Street, the site of one of the 6 proposed roundabouts. I've been an active member of the business community in Norwich for my entire career. As you might guess, I'm committed to the long-term improvement of West Main Street, and I would be eager to work on other alternatives to this plan. I'm not in favor of the project in its current form. I believe the proposed roundabout at Osgood Street is totally unnecessary. Traffic heading into Goldblatt Bokoff, that's my firm, it's approximately 10 to 15 cars per day, and at the most. And Osgood Street has very little traffic also. So, why do we need a roundabout there? I'm told it's so people can make U-turns. It's certainly not a major cross-town artery like New London Turnpike or Asylum Street. If the circle was eliminated, traffic could easily reverse direction at Dunham Street, which is only approximately 1,600 feet away, or Mount Pleasant Street, which is about 800 feet away. Since traffic will be flowing freely according to the presentations, that wouldn't take long at all to just make that little extra drive. More importantly, though, if the project goes forward as it's presented, employees working on the lower level of our building, the side of the building that faces Crane Avenue, they're going to be in danger every single day. The state, and I appreciate everything they're doing, and I met with them, and they're all good people, and I'm sure they're trying to do the right thing. But they expect all the cars going through the roundabout to be going at 25 miles per hour. They've assured me that's all they're going to be doing. And I've seen people on West Main Street, they're not going 25. Not all of them. So my question is, what happens when there's a speeding or a distracted driver heading westbound, I think I've got that right, who suddenly realize they're about to enter a roundabout and they're going too fast? I mean, if I was driving and I was going too fast, I would probably turn the wheel hard trying to maneuver the circle. And when that happens, if they're going fast enough, they will end up in the ground floor of our business where people are sitting. I'm told there's a clear zone of 15 feet, and that'll stop any errant vehicle, and that our employees will be safe. Honestly, I don't believe that for a single minute. There's many other shortcomings to this project, which have already been questioned. However, I'll speed up here. However, the state seems to have an answer to all of them. It almost seems too good to be true. Every single shortcoming, there's a simple answer.
How will tractor trailers get into and out of businesses establishments? And, you know, if you have to go over the center divider or go over curbs, it's probably not the best solution. How will a single lane accommodate all the traffic that now fills 2 lanes? What kind of backup will there be when the school bus stops and vehicles cannot pass when the flashing red lights go off? Will pedestrians really be safer? How many businesses will close as a result of the construction? I could go on. I've been told several times that this project is still in its preliminary design phase and that it's far from a done deal. So I ask you, why are we here tonight voting on whether or not to sign a project authorization letter and to approve the conversion of the entrance to my office, commonly known as Crane Avenue, into a city street and a new entrance to the Westgate Shopping Center? Seems like we might be putting the cart before the horse. I urge you to delay this vote and explore other options. Thank you for considering my comments before any decisions are made to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Green.
My name is Sharon Green. I live at 36 Elderkin Crossing, which is Route 82. I think everyone that's spoken here tonight has pretty much expressed my opinions and my feelings about this project. I am against the roundabouts, especially 6 of them on that stretch of road. I think it's too many, and I think it may create more of a danger than what we have now. I think it's the speed at which people drive that is a lot of the problem on West Main Street. And I really feel for the business owners on that street with this project, if it goes through, and what the future may bring for that. I personally may never drive down that road again if there are 6 roundabouts. So I just wanted to express my opinion that I am against this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Douglas Green.
My name is Douglas Green. I also live at 36 Elderkin Crossing. When Sharon and I walked in, we saw the sign-up sheet. We thought it was just to express our opinion on the sheet. We didn't know that we were going to be called up here to speak. But here I am. I have been driving Route 82, West Main Street, for 27 years, from where we live to where I worked in the city. That's 18 traffic lights, one way. I've driven that road every day for 27 years, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day, sometimes 4 times a day. Early mornings, late at night, during rush hour. Lunchtime is the worst. If anybody knows what it's like at lunchtime. I'm totally against this. I agree with so many of the previous speakers, especially the number of roundabouts. That's just insane. Think about it. Just insane. So I'm here to voice my opposition to it, at least in its present form. I think the design could be improved. I'm not anti-roundabout. I think the one downtown is fine. But 6 of them, way too many, and I'm totally against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Linda Theodoro.
Hi, my name is Linda Theodorou. I live at 37 Taftville Ockham Road. I am for the installation of the rotaries on 82. I did go to the informational session, which was based on science and facts, so I learned the benefits of the planned changes on 82. Those left turns causing accidents will be eliminated, and the speed will be reduced. We cannot continue to put lives at risk because some people fear change. It is time to enter the 21st century. Norwich residents are smart enough to learn how to use a roundabout. Often now, I go to Lisbon rather than travel to Norwich stores on 82. Once the road is made safe, I will do more shopping in Norwich. After the displaced businesses have moved to their new locations, they may discover increased business because people feel safer traveling on 82. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Grader, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Mark Grader. I own Grader Jewelers located at 561 West Main Street across from Dunham Street. I stand against the scope of this project. I see the number of roundabouts within this small stretch of road as totally excessive. I agree with the mayor that Norwich is being used as a guinea pig, not unlike the failed Captain's Walk project that hurt so many businesses in New London years ago. They talk about hardships that the businesses would endure during construction. The hardships for many businesses will be too much for many businesses to endure. I said it years ago at the very first meeting about these roundabouts. Brick and mortar businesses have enough obstacles, including but not limited to the internet. We don't need construction and delays. We need local and state encouragement of buying local. Customers will shun the area due to construction. Just move, they say. There's 16 vacant properties. Well, my building was built to my parents' specific design plans. It was a culmination of what is now 60 years of doing business in Norwich. That's 60. This is a slap in the face. It is our legacy, pardon the pun, our crown jewel. Just move. What people don't understand is when businesses close down, they don't reopen, folks. Do you see a new Benny's anywhere? How about Radio Shack? Dot's Clothing Store, Payless Shoes, Fashion Bug, Zayre's. And it's already happening now. The car wash 2 buildings away from me, closed. Granite Electric across the street, closed. It's too much, folks. I vote strongly against not supporting this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That completes those who signed up before the meeting began. If there's anyone else who wishes to be recognized, Mr. Bell.
Thank you. Robert Bell, 122 Broadway. I'm sure it is somewhere online where the informational that was put out, I did attend, is available for us to see online. There was a couple of speakers before me who said that they weren't able to make it. I initially was against the project altogether. However, in the informational, a lot of my questions were answered. On the resolutions tonight, the resolution tonight is whether or not we're going to sign to say that the taxpayers of Norwich are going to be responsible for the snow removal, upkeep, electricity, and all those sorts of things. Mr. DeLucia, you had mentioned or asked the question earlier, aren't we already responsible for these things? And the answer from the DOT was, yes, we are. If we are responsible for things, my question is, hopefully y'all can answer it in your discussion back and forth. Why are we signing a resolution to say that we're going to continue if we're already responsible for these? But on the roundabout, so I like the project because a lot of my questions were answered in the informational, but I will stand against it as it is, because when you start taking away people's livelihoods, taking away little boys and girls' dance school, and all those away from people forcefully, whether or not they want to, I will stand in the way if elected in November. Vote Bell.
Thank you. Yes, please, Mike.
Mike Matera. Myself, my family owns property from 313 to 399 West Main Street, which is from Dollar General to Walgreens. I have a lot of mixed feelings, and this affects our property deeply. When we first heard about this back in 2015, I spent most of my life on West Main Street in the business of Surplus Limited. 2015, I made a comment that the biggest problem I found on West Main Street was the design, the original design of the aprons. I've never seen aprons, driveway aprons, that go up to the grade of the sidewalk. It's usually the aprons, the sidewalk comes down to the grade of the road. And that's what I've noticed is the big problem with West Main Street. Just looking, observing cars going from west to east. The first car comes into our parking lot, it slows up going into the apron. Second car is the one that gets hit because the first car is slowed up. The second car doesn't realize it anticipates slowing up. I know the state is going to go through this project. I do think there is one more roundabout that's not needed in this project. Like it or not, you know, I have mixed feelings about these roundabouts. I've seen them work in other countries. I wish this road was designed differently back in the mid-'80s. One thing I made a strong comment about on this road, the state says, and I talked to Scott and Mike, they said they want, if the road is going to be beautified, the end result. Go 100, if it is going to go forward, go 100%, put a new water line in, and I want to see utilities underground. I do not want to see telephone poles above. 80% of these dollars are coming from the federal, I believe, coming from the federal government. Build Back Better dollars. Use those dollars. 20% comes from the state. Let's make, you know, if this project does go forward, and I'm not looking forward to the construction process. I'm telling you what's going to happen. My store, Surplus Limited, will not exist. I'm looking for the shopping center to exist itself. But go 100% into this project. Another comment I want to make too, I'm not looking forward to, we're losing 18 parking spots in the plaza, 7 on the side of Harbor Freight, 11 on the other side. I'm very concerned about future tenants for that piece of property. So, and my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, again, name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening. My name is Pietro Rocchi Camardella, 79 Lambert Drive. I've been in Norwich, a citizen of Norwich, a business in Norwich since I came from Naples, Italy. I'm running for the 19th district seat, Senate seat, never been in politics in my life. I hear you, I admire you, I'll stand for you. Mr. Grader, Mr. Bokoff, Mr. Green, by the way, I know all these people personally. Mrs. Green, Mr. Matera. We not only have to consider projects, we have to consider the families. Mr. Grader, God bless your parents. 60 years. We just celebrated 100 years of Mr. John Fells, which, by the way, I did his daughter's wedding. The point is, forget just the numbers, think of the lives. As an impact as lives. And if I may endure just a little bit, when we're assigned responsibilities, it's not just numbers. It's the impact that goes on and on and on. Now, if you drive to Florida, which is all flat and huge, you get these roundabouts, but they designed from the beginning. And you definitely don't need 6. God bless America.
Thank you. And I was like, yes, please, gentleman back.
Hi, I'm Corey Butterfield, 10 Chasey Lane here in Norwich. Been a resident for 22 years now. I just returned from Natick, population Massachusetts, 37,000, about the size of our city. Along the heavily congested Route 9 through Framingham, Wellesley, and Natick. And I would agree with the gentleman with the barricades. Route 9 is a barricaded road. 2 lanes each side, barricade with U-turns every approximately 1.5 miles. High-end cars, high-end mall, twice as more expensive than Crystal Mall. 3 days or a Labor Day weekend, 0 accidents. The people understand we can only turn right, we can't turn left. And then they go to the U-turn, come back the other way. Not a problem. So where there is alternatives that I don't know if these gentlemen have even considered. And when I visited New York in the Saratoga Springs, Ballston Spa area where I lived, the roundabouts they mentioned during their presentation are 3 miles apart. 3 miles separate those roundabouts, not 1.5 miles. So we need something done, barricades, a lot less cheaper, cost effective, make the right turns, and put U-turns in at the larger intersections. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Yes, please, the gentleman back. Come up, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Paul Agranovich. I'm with Universal Package Store on West Main Street in Norwich. I've spoken at several of these other get-togethers, and quite honestly, I was just thinking not of even showing up again tonight. It just seems that there's such a determination already that whatever we want, it doesn't matter. State wants it. State's going to do it. They got a few people on the council that go along with it. They think that's the right thing to do. In the past, I mentioned several things that other proposals that could be tried first. And I agree, I've been working there since '82, so I've seen a few accidents, and I understand things can be done. I think police patrols at different times of the day and night would certainly be worthwhile to slow traffic down. I think if cameras were put in, that could be another thing. And I look at New London, Coleman Street, which is very, very similar to West Main Street. There they have 95, which feeds into it, and they have left-hand lanes only. So does it mean that they're that much smarter in New London than we are here? You tell me. The number of accidents are substantially less. As I mentioned, I wasn't planning on coming this evening. I was outside today and there was an accident across the street at Wendy's, 215. When the road was constructed from 2 lanes to 4 lanes in 86, 88, whenever it was, they made a mistake at Wendy's. The apron that connects the road to the driveway is too high. You're constantly seeing where vehicles that have not been there before scrape. So the car coming down stops, it scrapes on the thing. Instead of proceeding onto the road, it stops, then it goes up. There is an inordinate number of accidents that happen at Wendy's. So if you think that you're going to be doing something to help, you've had since 1986, you still haven't fixed it. It's a long time for something to sit there. And there are more and more accidents that are happening because of that. And I'm infuriated by it when you won't take care and do common sense things. And in conclusion, just a round thing again, because I know I'm just spinning my wheels, this to me just seems like another square peg into a round hole. The state wants to make it work. They've got a few people here that think that it's going to work. You're absolutely going for a major thing that shouldn't happen. There are other ways to get this done. And when all of you are out of office and we're out of business because of what you've done, it's happened. Try these other things first, and then the state can just leave us alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council? Yes, please, miss, in front.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Lucenti, and I live on 4 Watson Drive in Norwich. Have been a taxpayer for 52 years. I wasn't I have never come to any of these meetings, and so I'm a little nervous, but I have to speak my piece. I can't compete with these other speakers. They're very eloquent in what they say. They have facts to back up what they're saying. They're people who own businesses in Norwich, and rightfully so should be concerned. I can't understand, as a simple female woman, I don't have the education of the civil engineers, but to me, it does not make common sense to put in as many roundabouts on a road that's, is it even a mile, 2 miles long? Doesn't make sense. We've lost common sense as a society, and we've lost it here on this project. I know people, I spoke to one gentleman this evening, and he kind of said that he had been in a certain town, Sonoma, and how it works so well. Well, we're not comparing oranges and oranges. This is Norwich, Connecticut. We're not Sonoma. The other thing is, roundabouts may have their purpose and work, but not that many. And I don't know if anyone has been in Salem to the Four Corners there. I've gone there several times, and I shop in that area. And there's always confusion. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced that. You have your areas where you're supposed to let people in. There's always people stopping because they're confused. Now we're going to have 6 of them going down the main street? I don't know. I may not have an education, but I'm not for it, and I hope all you people will. The other thing I want to ask, is this not put to the voters' choice? Do we not have a voice in whether we want this in our town? And
Thank you. I thought I saw another hand. Please, Brian.
Good evening, Brian Kobolars, 16 Hobart Avenue here in Norwich. First, in general terms, generally I support roundabouts. I have since the time I spent in England, and when I was chairing the downtown NRZ, we proposed the first roundabout that was later eventually built in downtown in the center. Dave
ended up proposing that as part of the traffic study that we presented to the council way back when. But the thing is this is a little bit of overkill. I need to agree with everybody here. Some thoughts that come to mind. When we think about potential businesses closing for a while, relocating, how many of them are going to relocate back to Norwich, those that do stay here? Are they going to go to another local community, as we saw what happened when some fires took place on Route 82? Some of those businesses left the town and went to surrounding towns. Is that going to be a fleeing here? What happened to Mustang Sally's when the bridge was rebuilt? Has that reopened? Haven't seen it yet. When I was sitting in the audience, I noticed on the screen a couple of the slides that were in there. One of the Northern Lights, another of a great star cluster. Have any of you heard about the Dark Skies Initiative, the Dark Skies program? It's to kill uplighting so that this way we don't have the light pollution that's killing our visibility of the stars. When was the last time you stood in downtown Norwich, looked up in the sky, and saw stars? Uplighting, not a good idea. The last thing I wanted to bring up, because I meant to bring it up at the last meeting, I believe it was 19 feet that they were giving people to go from the side of the street to a center island as an aisle of safety before they would pause and go again to the other side. Now, this doesn't directly affect me, but when I've seen handicapped people going across the multiple lanes of Route 82 to bring their groceries to the bus stop where they're going to be going in whatever direction, how are they going to be able to safely negotiate that 19 feet without a pedestrian crossing that's marked by lights where you need to have the traffic stop? Right now, I believe the plan is the traffic just keeps going and you pick your battle to run between the cars. Talking about public safety, I think you've got a greater increase in the number of pedestrian hits at the cost of reducing some traffic ones. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to join us at this time and address the council who has not had a chance? Yep, please, Rodney.
Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. I'm definitely against these runabouts. I call them a runaround. My wife corrects me. I live on the east side of Norwich. It takes me 10 to 13 minutes to go to the Dime Bank on the west side. And I'm not a speeder. I don't pass anybody. And I don't have any problems crossing the road. These people that spoke before me have all the points. They've told you about all the ins and outs. But one thing I always remember is that if something is proposed by the state, it will generally cost 1.5 times the price, always. I did that for the government, and I'm telling you today that it will cost 1.5 times what they estimate. Now, my wife was in an accident on West Main Street. She got clipped in the rear. It wasn't her fault. She got clipped from the rear. You're not going to solve that by building a roundabout. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak at this time during general citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Charles Linnell. I live at 10 Maplewood Court. Been living here about 15 years. I drive Route 82 on a regular basis. And I just don't see how any of this is going to help. It seems like all around the area, engineers, architects, whatever, they've just become enamored with traffic circles. They want them everywhere. Sure, they're beautiful, they look nice, but when you put them in this small of an area, I've been through several small roundabouts, and they're a nightmare, especially with excessive traffic. The only ones I've been through that are really smooth and work well, take up tons of space, plenty of room for people to get in, get through, merge. When you take the amount of traffic that's going to be on Route 82, especially putting it in one lane, and you've got them running the main road there, now you need the side roads to merge into them. I just don't see people letting them in, having room for them. It's going to slow down everything all around. What happens when you have the city buses stopping and you have one lane of traffic? The whole line of traffic has to stop and wait for that bus to kneel, open the doors, let people get on, get settled, take off again. Even if it goes through the beautification of it, the trees, the shrubs, all these things they say are years between maintenance. It never works out that way. Things always get overgrown. We get tons of wet, heavy snow in the wintertime. You're going to have these trees in the middle blocking view of everything. They're going to start leaning over. I just think every part of this proposal is a terrible idea. There are better things that can be done, fixing the aprons so people don't have to come to a stop as they go in and out of businesses. They can actually just proceed through the intersection, clear the intersection properly. Better patrolling from the police or cameras, as other people have mentioned, more accountability for the drivers themselves to not be doing 50 miles an hour down the road. I watch people see the lights turning red. I've watched them in front of my house absolutely just floor it and go through 2 or 3 red lights in a row just because they don't care, oh, it's a little side road. Something to make these people more accountable and actually care about the driving they're doing. Again, I don't see any of this actually doing a whole lot to help. It's just going to make more problems. Might not have the same problems, they'll just be different ones, but we'll still have problems.
Thank you, sir. Citizen comment is still open if someone has not had a chance to address any of the resolutions on our agenda. By the way, you don't have to limit your time to just Resolution 3, as it turns out. Is there anyone else like to address the council at this time? And is there anyone else like to address the council at this time? Third and final request, is there anyone else who'd like to address the council at this time? Seeing no one else, thank you all for expressing your concerns.
New business resolution. Number 1, relative to deposit unexpected education funds of the fiscal year 2021-2022 general fund budget into the non-lapsing account for unexpended education funds.
Thank you. Motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderman Sings, second by Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem.
So I believe that this action is warranted and it is prudent. It's not a secret that we have a $385 million school building bond that will be, actually a referendum that will be on the ballot in November, and there's no guarantee that that will pass. That is in the hands of the voters. And as much as I'm hopeful that that will pass and we will reshape.
You can't say that.
Thank you.
No.
Right, thank you very much, Mayor, for that. So, let me just back that up a little bit. So, we have this item on the referendum. We do not know that it will pass. Having this money in the school's capital non-lapsing account will hedge our bet in case the bond referendum does not pass. The money, there'll at least be some money present in their non-lapsing account to deal with the capital needs of our school buildings that will need to be addressed immediately if the school bond does not pass. The second point I'd like to make on that is that the option would be for us to say no and to take that money back into the city's coffers, take it back from the Board of Ed. And understand what happens, because that will be couched as, well, you know, that's a break for the taxpayers. That's taking care of the taxpayers. And I completely agree with trying to take care of the taxpayers, but that statement is false. At this point in our fiscal cycle, that money will go into the undesignated fund balance, the rainy day account. It will not be used immediately to reduce the mill rate. You will not get a rebate on the taxes that you just paid. It will not drop the mill rate moving forward for the rest of the fiscal year. It will sit in a savings account up until the time that we allocate it for some reason within the restrictions of our charter. So this is not about holding back money from the taxpayers at all. This is about making the prudent action to say, in case A doesn't happen, $385 million, then we have a plan B. It's the smart thing to do in order to address the needs that we all agree on that are present in the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Before asking for further comment, I would caution all members of council they may not reference the school bond in any way, context, or form. We are prohibited from doing that. Is there further? Please do not.
Yeah, and again, I apologize for making that reference.
Is there further discussion? Alderman Singh.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is the right thing to do, and we are within our limits of 4% for the non-lapsing account, and I think that was a good decision that was made to create this account. And I remember I was Board of Education member, so I was all for it. And it clearly shows another aspect of Board of Education that they are trying to save as much money as they can, which can be used for capital projects if needed. And we do know there are a lot of capital projects which will be showing up as our school does need help. So I think I'm all for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Then I have a question. President Pro Tem, previously we discussed referring this to the ad hoc committee. What has happened to that reference?
That was a conversation about the potential path that this action could take. If you'd like to make a motion to refer it to ad hoc, I would be happy to convene a special meeting of the ad hoc committee. But I just felt that that would be at the pleasure of the council. Should not, being the chair, it should not be as if I was insisting upon it or dictating that it had to happen.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would ask, is there such a motion to refer this to the ad hoc committee? Alderwoman Gould. Second, Alderman Wilson. Is there discussion? No. Roll call on the motion to refer, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion to refer to the ad hoc committee passes 7-0. Thank you all.
I'm sorry. Number 2, relative to an acceptance of identification of local match for federal assistance to firefighter grants for the Norwich Fire Department.
Thank you. A motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderwoman Berto, second Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
Is it possible for Chief Montoya to come to the podium, please?
Certainly. Chief Montoya, member has a question.
Good evening.
Good evening. Will this grant be used strictly for the Norwich Fire Department, or will this training be open to other departments within the city of Norwich?
That's a yes and a no question. The grant was written for the Norwich Fire Department for an aerial, a pump operator, and rapid intervention team, training. But as we usually do, as long as the grant allows it or the course that we're providing, we open it up to all the groups. We just held a trench rescue course over the past 2 weeks. That was offered to all departments. So we typically do open them. The bulk of the grant is for staffing and replacement costs for the city department. But if there are seats available, we always offer them.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Other members? Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Number 3, relative to authorize and approve to sign a letter for Phase 1 safety improvements on Route 82, West Main Street.
Thank you. A motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderwoman Berto, is there a second? Alderman Grant Neuendorf. Is there discussion? Alderman Grant Neuendorf.
When it comes to this resolution, public safety is the main issue. Crash Alley is a scary, ugly name for a road in our city. But it's a fair assessment. Something does need to happen, but I feel this is not the answer. I believe this resolution negatively impacts not only public safety, but small business as well. And I will not be supporting this resolution tonight.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? President Pro Tem.
So I have a question for Alderman Neuendorf.
Please.
Sir, you just seconded the motion to put it on the floor. And yet you do not intend to support it.
Right, I felt strongly that this was something that I wanted to oppose tonight and felt the need to speak on it.
If I may, any member can voice first and second to bring a motion to the floor. That doesn't necessitate their requirement to vote for anything. It's just moving business along. That would be my interpretation.
Fair enough. I did not contend that it necessitated anything other than it just seems contradictory. But aside, if I may,
Floor is yours.
Continue on with my comments. Thank you. So, Alderman Neuendorf is absolutely right. Crash Alley is an apt and sad name for this road. And I'm going to make this personal just for a moment. I have been rear-ended on this road. I was personally called out from the podium, which is fine. When you run for office, you know that that's going to happen. I don't have a problem with that. But when I was told that something to the effect of that I don't feel the pain of a business owner that's faced with some tough decisions and some situation not of his own making, and I empathize with that. But I would suggest that those should feel the pain, the physical pain in my back that I feel nearly every day as a result of that rear-ended accident. And the pain that I feel as a father, because although it was no fault of my own, my daughter went through years of treatment for the whiplash injury that she received in that very same accident. And to this day, she occasionally suffers with that. 23 years old, and she's feeling that pain. There is nothing more important than making this road safer. We heard from the owner of the Universal Package Store. Agree with many things that he said about some of the curb cuts that exist and have existed for decades. But I drive that road every single day, and that particular stretch of road, almost as often as I drive that road, there is at least a near miss, if not an accident. Up and down that road, every single day, at least once a day. And the road is just, the word is critical. It is critical that we do something about this road. And so to answer one other thing that was said from the podium, no, I will not be resigning as the chair or a member of the Public Safety Committee, because I feel that I am exceeding the expectation of that responsibility by digging my heels in and insisting that the state fix this road. Now, I'm not a civil engineer. I mean, I'm a designer by education and by practice, right? But I'm not a civil engineer. I don't specialize in transportation, but I know when something is dangerous just by looking at it, just by walking it or driving it or having it happen to me, all of which happen every single day. So I'm sorry. As I said, I empathize with those who will be negatively impacted. And I still believe that, and again, it's interesting that they all walked out before we got to speak our minds, but I would put the gentleman who was concerned about the rent and the triple net in touch with Kevin Brown over at NCDC, because he's done some research on this topic as well, and he's our point person on helping business owners deal with the challenges that these folks are facing. So we have mechanisms, we have ways to help, but you can't refuse our help and then complain about the things that we do. The road is unsafe. It needs to be fixed. That is the end of the conversation as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for yielding the floor back to me, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Berto.
I too will be supporting this resolution for the roundabout. Like President Pro Temp DeLucia stated, that Crash Alley is unsafe, and I think the roundabout will help make it safer. And I also think that it will help beautify that area as well. And I myself have almost been struck on that street several times. And, you know, if it will help make the road safe, I'm all for it. And if those I do empathize with the businesses that will be affected. And like President Pro Temp DeLucia said, they should get in contact with Kevin Brown, and that way he can help them find a new place. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Singh.
Thank you. So first of all, I was very glad to see all this participation, but I was kind of disappointed because a lot of folks didn't attend all the informational sessions, because my way of making decision is gathering all the facts and data. And I am supporting this resolution based upon all the facts which have been presented to us, based upon all the data that has been presented to us. And I think there's a lot of fear of unknown, and we are not familiar with Rotaries a lot, and that's one of the reasons for all the sentiments. My major concern was the business values, because I do understand how appraisal takes place. And of course there is a process, and I was made sure with today's conversation that there are multiple layers to safeguard those business owners so they can get appropriate values, because I do understand it takes a lot to move the business. But these are some of the business I support. Actually, I was in one of the business today who was here. He probably don't even know. I met some of his employees, and I just shop there. You know, I support them all the time. And I will find them wherever they go for my day-to-day needs. But I think it will be irresponsible for us if we don't support this safety issue today. I feel comfortable after all the discussions which happened today in informational session that there will be ongoing kind of conversations with the city on all the improvements or how the cost analysis will take place when they do their 100% plan with the drainage plan and all those other costs. So, you know, but I do understand all the aspects of it. Also, just for clarification, it's only phase 1, and phase 2 might not even happen. So we have to give benefit of doubt here. Also, I don't think so roundabouts are 3 miles away from each other. And I do have a little question actually for city manager, if I can ask.
Please go ahead.
Have city ever approached Department of Transportation that in our city there are so many accidents happening on this road and they should do something about it over all these years?
Yes, there's been ongoing discussions over certain time periods. It started well before I was here. I've been here about 7 years. So there have been discussions on this because statistically this road has a very high incident of accidents, and the Department of Transportation does have a program to try to recognize those highways that have these high incidents and try to ameliorate changes in them in their budgets yearly.
So technically they are investing all this money for the safety improvement based upon our request, because we have requested them to look into this matter over a period of time. And just for information, I have been rear-ended myself as well on that road, so I do understand it, you know, it does need some help.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, even from the people tonight, that the road is dangerous. The question is how to repair that or to lessen that danger. And that's where the difference is. But the dialogue with the state has always been that the road is dangerous, and they have provided a lot of input from us to discuss that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
The economic impact of 6 roundabouts on the city of Norwich is clear. It will be the end of some businesses. I don't want to get up tomorrow or next week or next year and say to Mr. Grader, thank you for 60 years in Norwich and good luck at your next location, which may or may not be in the city. I don't want to talk to Mr. Matera, say to him, thank you for everything, it's just been great. I hope your business doesn't suffer too much. Mr. Agranovich, Mr. Bokoff, other business owners that were here tonight, this is devastating to the city of Norwich. And while construction's underway, what other businesses are going to suffer? How many people are going to lose their jobs? And this is in no way any insult to Mr. Bushy and his team. They're doing what they've been hired or instructed to do by the state of Connecticut. It's not that easy for anybody who has a small business just to pick up and go somewhere else. You have blood and sweat and tears in your building. There has to be another way. Crash Alley, identified in 2015 as a dangerous road. It's 2022 and we haven't done a thing about it. Why don't we look into some driveways? Let's close off some exits and entrances or move them to make it better. Why don't we talk about some enforcement of people who are speeding or who are texting while they're driving or they're listening to podcasts on their phone? There has to be a better way. Reconfigure the traffic lights. This city council shouldn't accept the fact that we're going to lose one business, one gas station, one car wash, one sign shop, one electrical business. We shouldn't tolerate one of them. And with all due respect to the state of Connecticut, they're going to give you fair market value. Well, that's just great. And where are you going with your fair market value? I will not ever support this. There has got to be a better way to do it. We are foolish if we think that this is going to reduce, it may reduce speeding, but you're still going to have the fender benders. I don't care if the speeds are at 25 miles an hour. You have fender benders now at lights where people are stopped, and somebody's looking at their phone and doesn't see that the light is red, and they hit them. But we cannot afford to lose one business or one job. If this is Crash Alley, then the state should have done something in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and now it's 22. And we're going to start this project in a couple of years in Crash Alley and make it safer. How are people getting across the street? You're at the mercy, Mr. Kobelar said, you're going to be at the mercy of somebody stopping to let you across the street, to get into the center, and then hope you're quick getting across to the other side. I'm sorry. There's got to be another way to improve Route 82 for everyone who travels Route 82, whether you're coming from Salem or whether you're coming from the east side. There's got to be a better way than this 6 roundabout proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Then I have some questions. Mr. Bushy, if you would, please. I'd like to ask some questions at this time. Thank you, sir, and thank you for being here this evening. As I recall, Phase 1 eliminates 5 business properties in total. Is that correct?
Yes, we got number 297, former Strange Brew, the dance studio, sign professional.
Please speak into the mic.
We're not on
It may not have been on.
Yeah.
It's not his fault.
We're on now, good, thank you. Number 297, which was the former Strange Brew, the dance studio, sign professionals. Then there's a business with a barber shop, an apartment up above it, and then we have a gas station, Phase 1.
Thank you. And should Phase 2, even though it's not on the dais tonight to be voted on, it is part of the overall project. Is there not another gas station being eliminated there?
Probably. We've got more work to do on Phase 2, and it's hard for me to say exactly what properties are affected on that one. You know, I think we've been open and honest with DOT saying which ones might be affected. You know, in particular, I know the gentleman from Grader's Jewelers spoke tonight, but we haven't refined the design in that area yet, and he may not be a total acquisition. We don't know yet. You know, we're working hard to try to save him if we can. Certainly there will be some properties affected on Phase 2. Exactly which ones yet, we're not positive. We've got more work to do there.
Thank you. There's been discussion tonight and in the newspapers previously about vacant sites. properties that now are already empty of any commerce, retail, or even a residential home, if that could be done. When the 6 roundabouts were designed, did that take into effect those vacant properties and what would happen if they became occupied again? Does the engineering include permitting those vacant properties to be repopulated?
Yes, absolutely. If they're not, the goal of the project is to minimize property impacts, for sure. I mean, we're not looking to put people out of their homes or business, and if it means moving the circle one side of the road to the other or making the diameter a little bit smaller to minimize impacts, we're doing that as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. Another question I have, going back to utilities. There was discussion tonight where it appears that the state may reimburse the city, but I think in all cases, for the utility installation, it's the city that must upfront the funding first. The memo from our comptroller said that the state possibly could reimburse on certain types of expenses.
So we talked about 2 different things. One is a replacement and one is a relocation. And if a public utility owned by a municipality is impacted with the project, meaning the state is impacted, we're widening the road, we're building the roundabout, it's going to be within the footprint of the area occupied by existing utility poles, we have to push them back. 100% of that cost is bared by the state of Connecticut for all municipal public utilities. If you get into the water main discussion, the sewer, anywhere where we have a storm drainage crossing and we're going to have a conflict with that water main and maybe it needs to be lowered or moved to one side of the road to the other to accommodate the stormwater drainage, if that should happen, the DOT will pay 100% of that cost. Those are relocation expenses. Once we get into what we might discuss as replacement, and that's where maybe DOT's got this project, we're going to be reconstructing parts of the road, and it makes sense to do additional water or sewer work with the project. Those are certainly things that we're interested in talking about, and it would have to be some type of partnership and agreement and how much the state would pay for versus how much the city would be on the hook for, because you have capital improvement costs planned in the future anyway for something that's old. But we would hope that we could work together and find a solution. Exactly how much of those underground utilities, water and sewer, would be impacted with the project, like I mentioned, I won't have that information until we do the drainage design for the project. And then we'll also do a stage construction review and see if we have concerns about equipment, breaking it from equipment loading because maybe we've exposed it by excavating. Those are all conversations we'll have with the city and try to reach some kind of agreement. And then we'll have to discuss, well, at what point do we replace these utilities and how does it impact traffic and does it lengthen the duration of the construction? But, it's a need. We don't want to rebuild the roadway and then have to come back, every 6 months to patch the water main. That's not in anyone's best interest. So, we're open to those conversations and want to have an ongoing dialogue in it. So, but where it becomes a replacement cost, where the DOT is not impacting it, that is the city's responsibility. As it is today, if DOT left Route 82 and we're not working here, and at some point you've got to rebuild the water main, replace it, that's on the city.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Mr. LaRose, could you trade places with him, please? Thank you very much, Scott.
Here or up there, what's your preference?
Either way.
Okay.
You've listened to this dialogue, and particularly the last comment. He is referring to replacement, and you guys do a good job with your budget. You schedule things, you forecast, you do all the things you would want in a real bona fide utility company. A number of these systems have, in fact, been on the calendar for replacement. None of them, I believe, are in the time frame when this first phase 1 begins. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is a small section of gas main that we've applied for funding to replace. That would be one that may happen in advance of this project, and we've just applied for a federal grant for that gas main replacement. We should hear in October whether that grant comes through. But typically, on a project like this,
we do not have a normal funding venue. For instance, sewer, a replacement of a sewer main, if it's needed, is not something that's ever made it high enough in the priority list up till now to actually happen. Water, we have a lot of opportunity to get state funding for that water, but there's typically a very small grant and a large loan for those types of projects.
Thank you. And in all cases, it's the user fees, as it's referred to in the comptroller's memo, or the ratepayers who pay all that debt service, correct?
It's all through the ratepayers.
If this goes forward, and you certainly will be notified, you'll have to have those discussions. What does that do to the schedule of capital that you already have on board, let's say in the next 5 years? Does it mean you have to postpone some other items, or are you simply going to go to the ratepayers and raise the rate?
That would be reprioritization of our projects. To go and ask for just a big rate increase because this came sooner, maybe not be prudent. We would look at that closely, how we could shuffle and move things out that need to be done and reprioritize this work.
Thank you, Chris. From the beginning, I have stood against this concept of 6 roundabouts in a 1 1/3 distance. We heard comments tonight where someone referred to a system that apparently worked well, but each roundabout was 1.5 miles apart, not 6 within 1.3 miles itself. I think it's really gone beyond the scope of need. And that's not to diminish that there aren't accidents in the area. Since we was shared with you, I'll share my son-in-law got out of the Army, wasn't here 2 weeks, and he got rear-ended right by Wendy's. Girl was reading her phone, hit him at 45 miles an hour. Those do happen. It is real. But there are other things you can do. You can drop the speed limit down. Now, the State Traffic Commission years ago wouldn't listen to me because I was a state rep for 18 years, and it included that entire corridor. And I argued they shouldn't raise the speed limit because the studied and verified average speed limit was already 11 miles over the speed limit that was posted before. They increased 10 miles an hour in each section, and what happened? They kept up that 11 miles over. They saw that opportunity, and speed is one of the biggest problems in there. I think it could eliminate all left-hand turns except perhaps at traffic lights, or maybe not at all of them for that matter. I don't know if that's even been studied. I think you definitely need a divide in the middle of the road. I think you could look at eliminating a lot of the aprons. That's already been stated, but I'll repeat it. This road was built at a time when there were still some homes on it, believe it or not. You may not remember where they are, but I know where every one of them was, because I stood on their front porch when all of this mess was going on. What no one has talked about tonight is what happens after the road's built. Everybody goes away. The properties that remain, that survive, they're not finished. The state will sub out to other contractors to complete the project. And let me tell you, these subcontractors want a fast buck and they want to get out of town quick. And the substandard work that took place back then was terrible. A lot of it was ripped out because I made them rip it out. And DOT assisted in that once it was brought to their attention how poor the job was done. But make no mistake about it, this project doesn't end when the road opens up. Not by any means. Not if you live on that road. Not if you have a business that survives. No one has spoken tonight about the lack of sales in that corridor. We focus on the properties that are being taken. Well, there are a lot of other businesses in that corridor. They're not going to have sales. They're not going to have foot traffic. People aren't going to drive through that area. They're going to avoid it like a plague. I know, I lived in Thamesville, the first house I ever owned in Norwich. Every day I had to go through that site. You know what I did? I crossed it at the most inactive site. I never did that road unless I had to, because I generally had little kids with me. So the safety is a serious issue over there. But this answer, this solution, it's too heavy-handed. You don't need 6 roundabouts in 1 1/3 miles. But they want to go forward with it. It's never been done in the state of Connecticut. We are the guinea pig. Trial and error. And who pays the price? The people whose livelihood are there, the people who work there, people who live in that vicinity. Consider this when the construction starts. Is the state going to deter the traffic over Maple and Pine? Seems like a natural fit because it will work. But what are we doing to those neighborhoods? Or maybe it will be Elizabeth Street and Peck Street over by St. Peter and Paul's. Maybe we'll deter traffic up the hills over there and people take their shot getting into the project itself, hoping for an opening. This is much bigger than just this small stretch of road that we're talking about tonight. The impacts are far-reaching, and I think they're mostly negative. I don't think this will solve our problem. I truly don't. So I will not be supporting this. I'm going to stay consistent. I think people want to count on that. I don't fault the engineers or Mr. Bushy. He is doing his job. But I think this solution is too heavy-handed. So I'll be voting no. Thank you. Mr. Wilson, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can I call Mr. Bushy back to the podium, please? So for my first question, actually, it's really moving forward with this agreement kind of as is. There's no guarantee that we end up with 6. There's a possibility that there could be less than 6, yes or no?
Yes, tonight's discussion is the agreement in front of you for maintenance and land transfer is only pertinent to 3 roundabouts, which is phase 1. That's all this meeting is about tonight.
And even within that agreement, there could still be a dialogue of possible moving and of a roundabout location-wise and all of those. It's not a done deal.
There would be always continued dialogue between the city and state until the design is completed.
Okay, thank you. That's the only question I have for you. Thank you. Mr. Brown from NCDC, could I ask you to approach the podium? My question to you is, I know it was referenced several times tonight, business impact, business impact, business impact, loss of business, relocation, fair market values. In your role at NCDC, what way can you help individuals being impacted by this project, and what is your take on the project?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, Mr. Alderman, that tonight this project became a top 10 priority for us that didn't frankly exist until this conversation tonight. Not to say we haven't been engaged in the conversation. I've had a number of great dialogues with the folks at DOT, and for those that might think that I'm seemingly just doing the math and saying if 6 businesses are being relocated, we can put them in 16 current vacant locations. I know it's not that simple. And anybody who's been around this conversation, and my DOT colleagues would be amongst those, they know that I've been trying to champion for one business owner out there who fits the profile of all of these folks who come to the podium tonight against the project, because I'm trying to help him retain his location and his business. But that said, in the aggregate, you know, I recognize that we have a role to play in this thing. And I've been doing math problems over here. We all know that NCDC is highly reliant upon federal and state grants to be able to provide support to businesses. There are some grants available that I think we can creatively go after. We all know that grants are not a guarantee, but I think we can make a solid case for ways to help with the business continuity for those that have to relocate. There's already the component parts that DOT promises for relocation expenses. I think that we can extend that and augment that in other ways. I don't have an answer here tonight, but I do believe that we can find a way to help help mitigate those concerns. I learned something tonight, or at least I was reminded of something tonight by one of the folks that took to the podium, and it did sit me back in my chair that I was probably being a little bit too discreet and mathematical about how I was looking at it. And, there are some intangible costs to the move, but I think that we can creatively work towards ways to overcome some of those larger issues. Long story short, if the disruption to business continuity if the move can be taken care of, and we can relocate the business, we can find a place, we can pay for the costs of the relocation, if that part's taken care of already in the current standing agreements and equation, how do we help with that business continuity in those first 3 to 5 years after they get into that new location to make sure that they are well marketed, well signed, well understood that they're there, and able to overcome the delta in their business pro forma that says before, and this is the exact point I heard tonight that resonated, before it used to cost me $4,000 a month to be in here, now it costs me $6,000 a month. I don't want to call that short money because that would be offensive to those that are in that situation. But as you aggregate that and look at the overall cost of the project, there are ways that we should be able to attack that problem and fix that business continuity delta from an economic standpoint. It's a lot longer than probably you asked for, but I think that there are ways that we can help.
No, I think it's important to understand that point, so you answered the question correctly. That whatever I was looking for is, I think the part is understanding that there are a lot of players at the table, regardless of how we move forward with what's done over on Route 82. It's still our responsibility to go after helping each business with your help, but also us advocating for possible additional resources from the state. I mean, I think it's an understanding that this is not just an overnight, we vote tonight and our work is done. We're rolling up our sleeves like with any other project that has come before the city council. We've got work to do. And I think, knowing whatever construction would be done, even if it wasn't a roundabout, is going to impact business over on Route 82. That's just calling it what it is, and so at the end of the day, as the council, NCDC, our job, city manager, all of us, is to look at what additional resources we can get to help those businesses. So thank you for answering that question. You're all set. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to speak for the second time. One, I spoke with the representative of Conover today who manages the plaza where ShopRite is and all those other stores. Their position has not changed. They are still gravely concerned about loss of market share, particularly of the supermarket, ShopRite. 7 years ago, I was told by then the owner, Mr. Ken Capano, that if they anticipate a loss of 10 to 12% of their market share, that means those people who never return to the store after going through that construction time frame, he said they'll close the store. That still remains a concern of mine and them. The attorney could not be here tonight, but I wanted to express those concerns to those here who will be voting. It's not as simple as some of you are trying to cage it tonight. It goes beyond addressing the public safety. You have to live with your decision, as the public has had to live with the state's decision since they began that project in the early 80s. And it really didn't wrap up till almost 1987, because I know I spent 3 years on that road trying to get people's properties restored as best as possible. Tonight will not be the last voice or the last judgment on this project. We already heard Mr. Bushy cite that they may not build phase 2. Doesn't that undermine the confidence of phase 1? It does for me. That's the second time you've said that, or someone from representing DOT has stated they may not do phase 2. I don't know what that, or how that comes about, but that to me undermines your own confidence in phase 1. I don't think people's lives should be played with. Yes, there's a need there, but there are other solutions. I know you looked at the suicide lanes. I think that's what they refer to them. That's that fifth lane in the middle where people face each other. One turns left, one turns right. It was stated there wasn't enough room for that, and I agree with that. The road's not wide enough, unless you're going to take a heck of a lot more properties. But this concept is an overreach. It's too heavy-handed. It impacts too many lives, a number of them that we can't even calculate tonight, because we won't know the impacts until the people stop shopping in that entire area and stop driving through it once construction begins. People's lives are not to be played with. And I think we're being asked to do just that. There are so many unanswered questions, even with just phase one. We don't have complete information on utility costs, cost sharing, you know. I mean, the city of Norwich is facing some very difficult budgets coming forward, some very important projects. How do we pay for all of that and now add this bill on top of it? How much do you think the taxpayers can take? That's a question for all of you who I serve with. They're the ones going to have to pay the bill. It's not an easy vote. People have the right to believe what they believe, but I think there's a heck of a lot more research needed. And the last thing I'll cite is, with the elimination of lights, let's back up. If you build phase one, you decide you shouldn't build phase two, what happens to the fire preemption system that's in that roadway now? It starts at the East Great Plains Firehouse. I guess it will end at Osgood, and they won't have any way to control traffic if they're responding to a call. And the reverse is also true of Central. What will they do? They get to the end of Dunham Street. I think I misspoke. Dunham Street. The lights are back on, but they're off before that. We have two firehouses at both ends of this corridor. What are we doing to them in their call to serve, their response? We haven't even talked about that tonight. If the roundabout is designed physically well, the trucks can go up and over the roundabouts. I understand that. That's how the one in downtown works. But getting to the other side of the road is a problem. Occam and Yantic, two volunteers, share two sides of 395. We already have an example of that. It's access that's necessary. What are we doing to the access of the fire departments? This is not as easy as we're being told it is. This shouldn't be the final vote. We should have a hell of a lot more information than we've been given. Thank you. I see no further hands. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
No.
Alderman Neuendorf?
No.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
No.
That's 4-3.
The resolution is adopted on a 4-3 vote.
Number 4, relative to transfer Crane Avenue from the state of Connecticut to the city of Norwich.
Motion, please bring this forward. Alderman Singh. Alderman Berto. Is there discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
No.
Alderman Neuendorf?
No.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
No.
It's 4-3.
The resolution adopted 4-3.
New business ordinance. Number 1, an ordinance to waive delinquent interest on sewer benefit assessment installation payments to be codified in Chapter 21, Article 1 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances, Section 21-9.
Thank you. Motion, please, to bring this on the floor and to schedule it for a public hearing on the 19th of September to waive the full text and reading and schedule the second action. Motion by Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Singh. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. The ordinance is scheduled for public hearing again on September 19th. Its vote is 7-0.
Number 2, an ordinance amending portions of Article 1, Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances, providing for adjustments in sewer assessment payments for disabled property owners.
Thank you. A motion to schedule this for public hearing again for September 19th to waive the full text and reading and schedule second action. Is there a motion, please? Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Berto. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Thank you. The motion to schedule for public hearing on 7/19 is adopted 7-0.
Ordinance number 3, an ordinance amending Section 13-14.2 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances, possession of alcoholic beverage in certain public areas prohibited, to establish the amount of a fine for each offense.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to schedule for public hearing on 7/19, waive the full text and reading, and schedule second action. What did I say, 9/19? Yeah, 7/19.
9/19.
Oh, thank you. September 19th, thank you. Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Wilson? You have a question?
Could I make a friendly amendment to refer this to Public Safety, the Public Safety Committee, as well as having the city manager reach out to the state's attorney's office here and the impact that change would possibly have? Could we do both of those?
If I could give information, this was done in consultation with our chief of police. The $50 value is based on a reference to what the courts will actually acknowledge. Currently, the fine is $35, and they don't deal with it at all. The purpose really here is to raise the value of the fine to $50, hopefully to get the attention and action of the courts.
Totally understand that. I just would like the information or memo to come from the court, then if that's their so wishing for us to do.
They won't do it. Mike.
Police chief spoke with the court staff with respect to this as to how they could deal with the situation of abuse of the liquor rules in the downtown. The suggestion was raise the fine to $50, then the court would take it in the context of more than a summons. So,
Well, either way, I would feel more comfortable if either that memo comes from the police chief, someone that states that instead of kind of just being out there. So I don't care if it comes from, someone has to have the rationale from the courthouse or something before, in order to have, for them to want to take it up. So someone should be able to give us a rationale behind the fine.
I would think the chief of police would be able to at the next session, if you wish.
It's his intent to speak in behalf of it.
That's totally fine. My other concern is looking at the impact that the fine amount has on those that possibly would be affected in the community, but also the other part that I'm looking at with this, once you bring it up, is what impact it has on businesses with some of the things that we're looking to do in the city. So that's the reason I'm asking for these two communications.
So it's your request that it still be referred to public safety?
Absolutely.
It really hasn't come up yet. This is just the first reading, so you could move to, at the second reading, if you choose to, you could move to refer it before you take action on it. But once you can't vote on it until you have the public hearing. Once the public hearing is conducted and done, you don't have to vote that night.
Okay.
The second reading could take place at a later time if there was more information to be obtained.
That's fine.
Thank you. Has he addressed your concern, sir?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Then the motion is, as it was originally requested, to raise it for public hearing on September 19th, waive the full text and reading, and take second action. Is further discussion? Okay, a roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Thank you. The motion is adopted 7-0 to raise for public hearing on the 19th.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to pending claims and pending litigation involving the City of Norwich as a party. City Manager John Salamone and Corporation Counsel Michael Driscoll shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council. The council shall then continue into executive session with Corporation Counsel Michael Driscoll to discuss the employment of City Manager John Salamone, who does require that the discussion be held in an open meeting.
There a second? Alderman Singh? Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. Is the other remote?
They know you're going to go over there.
Council, come back to order. Let the record show that no votes were taken.
Before we come back into regular session, we'll correct that.
Okay, a motion to return to the meeting, please. Alderwoman Gould, second by Alderman Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, everyone.
Before we go further, I'd like to correct probably a typo, but there's an error on the motion to go into executive session, which is my fault, that the city manager had agreed that it could be done in executive session. He did not require it to be done in the public session, so I think the word "not" should be inserted in the public record.
Motion, please.
It was read correctly. The word "not" was supposed to be there.
Do you want a motion? Mike, do you want an emotion?
Yes.
We need an emotion, please. Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderwoman Berto. Those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we need a roll call, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Wilson, please.
Yes.
Bordeaux?
Yes.
Singh?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Neuendorf?
Yes.
DeLucia?
Yes.
Nystrom?
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Gould. Alderwoman Berto, second. Wilson?
Yes.
Berto?
Yes.
Singh?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Neuendorf?
Yes.
DeLucia? Nystrom, yes. Motion to adjourn passes 7-0. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, boy.